The moment Terry Crews ran onto the stage, the entire theater seemed to inhale at once. Lights blazed, music thundered, and yet somehow everything went silent inside the hearts of the people watching. No one expected it. Not the judges, not the audience, and certainly not the trembling contestant standing alone under the spotlight. Terry's hand slammed down on the golden buzzer, with a force that felt like years of emotion, finally finding release. Gold confetti exploded into the air like a promise kept, too late but still right on time. Just seconds earlier, the stage had felt heavy with tension. The contestant, a young man named Daniel, stood clutching the microphone as if it were the only thing anchoring him to the ground. His shoulders were tight, his breath shallow. He had introduced himself quietly, almost apologetically, explaining that music was the only place he ever felt safe. His voice shook as he spoke, not from lack of confidence in his talent, but from a lifetime of being told his voice did not matter. Daniel came from a small town where dreams were treated like foolish distractions. His father had worked long hours at a factory until his health gave out. His mother cleaned houses, carrying exhaustion in her eyes but still smiling for her children. When Daniel was younger, he sang to drown out the shouting that sometimes filled their home, the arguments born from bills, fear, and disappointment. Music became his hiding place, his prayer, his way of surviving days that felt too heavy for a child. In school, things were not easier. Daniel was shy, soft-spoken, and preferred melodies to sports. That made him a target. Classmates mocked him for his voice, calling it strange, too emotional, too weak. Teachers praised his academic work but suggested he keep singing as a hobby, something safe and realistic. Every time someone told him to be practical, a small part of his dream folded in on itself. Quietly, like it was ashamed to exist. Years passed, and Daniel learned how to survive without standing out. He worked odd jobs, helped his parents when he could, and sang only late at night when the world was asleep. He posted a few videos online that barely got noticed. Still, something inside him refused to die. When his father passed away, Daniel sang at the funeral, his voice breaking as he reached the final note. Afterward, strangers approached him with tears in their eyes, telling him they felt something real. That was the moment he realized his voice was not meant to be hidden. Walking onto the stage of the talent show was the hardest thing Daniel had ever done. His hands were cold, his heart racing so fast he feared it might betray him before he could sing a single note. The judges smiled, encouraging but unreadable. Terry Crews watched him closely, sensing the familiar mix of fear and hope. Terry had seen that look before in the mirror many years ago. Daniel began to sing. The first note was soft, almost fragile, but it carried truth. The song spoke of loss, resilience, and the quiet strength it takes to keep going when no one is cheering. As the melody built, so did Daniel's confidence. His voice grew stronger, richer, filling the theater with raw emotion. Every word felt lived in, earned through pain and perseverance. The audience leaned forward, caught in the gravity of his story. Terry felt his chest tighten. The performance reached places inside him that he rarely allowed himself to revisit. He remembered being told he was too big, too different, too much. He remembered struggling with his own insecurities, with moments of darkness, with the pressure to hide vulnerability behind strength. Watching Daniel, Terry saw a reflection of every person who had ever been underestimated. Halfway through the song, Daniel's voice cracked. For a split second, fear flashed across his face. Old doubts threatened to pull him under, but then he closed his eyes and kept going. He sang through the crack, through the pain, through the memory of every time he had almost quit. That imperfection made the performance even more powerful. It was real. It was human. Tears rolled freely in the audience. One judge covered her mouth, stunned. Another nodded slowly, recognizing something rare unfolding in front of them. Terry was already on his feet. He did not wait for the final note. The decision had been made deep in his soul. As Daniel reached the song's climax, Terry ran. He ran not for the spectacle, not for the cameras, but for the moment. He slammed the golden buzzer just as Daniel finished the last note, his voice echoing into silence. The explosion of gold was immediate and overwhelming. Confetti rained down like sunlight after a storm. Daniel froze, unable to process what was happening. His knees buckled and he covered his face, sobbing. Years of rejection, fear, and quiet endurance poured out in that instant. Terry wrapped him in a hug, holding him tightly, whispering words of encouragement only Daniel could hear. Words about worth, about bravery, about how this moment did not erase the past, but it honored it. When Terry finally stepped back, He addressed the crowd, his voice thick with emotion. He spoke about believing in people when they struggled to believe in themselves. He talked about the power of vulnerability, about how strength is not the absence of fear but the courage to stand anyway. He reminded everyone watching that sometimes one moment of belief can change the direction of an entire life. Backstage, Daniel struggled to breathe through his tears. Contestants congratulated him, but everything felt distant, unreal. For the first time, he allowed himself to imagine a future shaped by music, not limited by fear. He called his mother, who cried so hard she could barely speak. She told him his father would have been proud. That single sentence carried more meaning than any trophy ever could. The days that followed were not magically easy. Fame did not erase insecurity overnight. Daniel still battled self-doubt, still woke up afraid of failing. But now he had proof. Proof that his voice mattered. Proof that someone saw him, truly saw him, and chose to believe. As the competition continued, Daniel grew stronger, not just as a singer but as a person. He shared his story openly, hoping it might help someone else feel less alone. Letters poured in from viewers who saw themselves in him. People who had been told to be quiet. People who had almost given up. His courage gave them permission to keep going. The night Terry Crews ran on stage became more than a viral moment. It became a reminder that destiny sometimes arrives unannounced, dressed as opportunity, waiting for courage to meet it. It proved that pain can be transformed into power, and that belief, when given freely, can change everything. In the end, the Golden Buzzer was not just about advancing in a competition. It was about validation, healing, and hope. It was about a man brave enough to sing his truth and another brave enough to recognize it. And long after the confetti settled, the message remained clear and steady, echoing in the hearts of millions. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And sometimes all it takes is one moment, one act of belief, to turn a lifetime of silence into a song the world cannot ignore.